Kneel before Zod!
You can't go! All the plants are gonna die!
I'm gonna take a bath.
Bad dates. I'll alert the media.
Boys, keep off the moors.
It's evil! Don't touch it!
The name's Pliskin.
No more hangers!
Welcome to a very special Vintage Video Patreon pick, where our patrons at the $100 tier are invited to request any pre-1980s title they'd like for a custom review from the Vintage Video team, overanalyzing what you've seen and spoiling what you haven't. I'm Patrick O'Reilly.
I'm Jesse Bayless.
And I'm Richard Wells.
And today, Justin Aylett has asked us to review 3 Days of the Condor, released September 25th, 1975. It was written by Lorenzo Semple Jr. and David Rayfiel, based on a novel by James Grady, directed by Sidney Pollack, and released by Paramount Pictures. James Grady's novel, 6 Days of the Condor, was published in 1974. It was followed 4 years later by the unadapted Shadow of the Condor, and more recently with 2015's The Last Days of the Condor, as well as short stories Condor.net and Next Day of the Condor.
And don't forget Condor Man.
Right, of course. Canon to the series. The film rights were purchased by Dino De Laurentiis and producer Stanley Schneider before the book was even released, and Peter Yates was quickly hired to direct. Yates had worked with Robert Redford in the past on The Hot Rock, but as soon as Redford was attached, he suggested Sidney Pollack to replace Yates, and Yates was paid out his full directing salary.
Yeah, well, at least he was...
He got the money.
That just seems weird. It's like, Peter Yates is like, oh, wow, I really like working with Robert Redford.
He's like, great, I like this other guy. Get out of here, Yates. But Redford worked with Pollack on a bunch of stuff, so it kind of makes sense, but it also seems a little bit shitty unless Yates was like, I don't really care about this one. And he's like, why don't we have Pollack do it, and you can get all the money anyway.
Perfect.
The working title was the book's title, 6 Days of the Condor. The title of the book and film were clearly an influence on Disney's spy comedy Condor Man, which we covered earlier this season, and it has been credited as an inspiration for Marvel's Captain America the Winter Soldier, which ultimately inspired the casting of Redford in the role of Alexander Pierce in that film.
So, sorry, did we cover what happened to the other 3 days?
They were uneventful. No, I don't know what happened.
He just took a day for himself, a personal day.
Yeah. And on the 7th day, he rested.
Yeah, exactly. The film was recently adapted to a series entitled simply Condor for the Audience Network, which I've never heard of, starring Max Irons, the son of Jeremy Irons, in the lead, with William Hurt, Mira Sorvino, and Bob Balaban rounding out the cast. I liked this. This was an IMDb trivia point, and I just felt it was worth repeating because it's so stupid. It says, Chris Peachment of Time Out magazine described the movie as being Neo-Hitchcock, a reference to Alfred Hitchcock. In case you were curious what Neo-Hitchcock meant.
Oh my God.
I don't think I can name another person with the last name of Hitchcock.
I can.
Hitchcock?
Hitchcock from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. But that's it. Fictional character.
Wait, wasn't Will Smith Hitchcock as well?
Hancock.
Hancock. God damn it.
In what?
Hancock.
Oh, forgot about that movie.
No, I think the movie was called Hitchcock.
That'd be really weird. Because it's such a Neo-Hitchcock story, which is a reference to director Alfred Hitchcock. Do you guys recall the last time we mentioned Robert Redford by name? His name is brought up within the film that we discussed.
Right.
A character in one of the films is pretending to be a friend of Robert Redford's to impress a woman.
Was it All the Marbles?
It was All the Marbles.
There you go.
Harry, Robert Redford called again. Now, I told him you couldn't be disturbed.
The film opens with credits in that 70s computer font, and we watch documents being scanned into a database. A machine turns the pages of a book as the computer scans each sheet. A woman operating the machine watches pages unfurl from a printer. Several agents in the same office discuss a case where a man was shot but no bullet was discovered. We cut outside to Robert Redford as Joseph Turner on a bike in traffic, late again.
I don't quite understand this machine. Do you understand it?
Yeah, it turns a page and then it scans the whole sheet.
But how is it scanning the pages? Like, in the technology that it had of the days, like, I didn't think we had something that could read actual text off of pages. I think like
oh, it's not just reading, it's taking a photograph of it.
Oh, okay. I guess in my brain it was understanding the words on the page and printing them out of the printer.
I think that would be a separate process if that's what's happening. I think in this case, it's just scanning it into an image, and then that would go into a computer that would identify characters.
Yeah, but I guess that's the question that I had, because I feel like in this time period, they did not have anything that could do that.
We definitely had one in the early 90s at my house.
Well, this is well before that.
Yeah, but we also weren't the CIA.
Touché.
Officially.
Or were you?
We weren't officially the CIA.
Yeah, because I think that's what Janice is changing out. I think she's changing out rolls of film.
Oh, okay.
Because she keeps taking like these small rolls of things and putting them in containers.
So it's literally recording it to celluloid, and then she's
like
taking
microfiche or something.
Yeah, that's what it appears to be, because it's clearly photographing it from above.
Right.
So it has to be some kind of...
But I do really think, I don't know how it works, but whatever they have functioning as a page turner, it's like this little metal rod goes over the corner of the page, and then the page sticks to it. I don't know if it's like suction or air or whatever, and then like it turns the page over.
It's actually static cling.
Yeah, it's something really neat, though. I'm just like, this is a fascinating thing, because it's not like grabbing the page mechanically at all. Like, it's like sucking the page up or something.
Which is funny, because I saw a video like earlier this week about how the Internet Archive scans things.
Yeah,
and it's literally a person turning the page with their hand and then pulling the scanner down to scan both sides of the page.
I thought you were going to go the other way, because I saw a book scanner that literally does suck the pages to a V-shaped glass.
Oh.
Yeah.
And so it's like pulls them up and then just keeps like going through the book that way.
Oh, the one that I
That's
saw,
cool.
the person like had the V-shaped glass that brought it down to scan it, and then lifted it up, turned the page, and then pulled the thing down. But they were still turning the pages manually. We get a quick insert of someone in a car across the street from the office thumbing through a folder full of pictures. There seems to be a picture of every person in this office, and then we see a list of all their names crossed out. The sign outside the building reads American Literary Historical Society. 17 minutes late, Redford rings the bell and covers his face with a cap before the secretary buzzes him in with a button in her desk drawer, which also has a gun in it. Redford checks in with Dr. Lapp to see if there's anything urgent for him to start with today. The man is attending to plants under artificial lighting, and Redford knows enough about this particular species to correct what the man is doing. He's sent to his desk to analyze a book and tells Lapp it's going to rain at exactly 10:20 today. Turner barely overhears the riddle his office mates are solving and immediately figures it out. The woman operating the machine earlier, Janice, gives him a quick kiss and sits on his desk to tell him the riddle right as he answers it.
All we've got so far is a 38...
Instead of what? Ice. The murderer pours water into a .38 caliber mold and freezes it and keeps it solid until the crime.
Turner asks Janice
That
about...
wouldn't work.
No, it wouldn't. It would just explode in the gun.
It would definitely not work.
Turner asks Janice about a riddle of his own, an obscure novel with no particular following translated into seemingly random languages. She asks how he solved the ice riddle so quick, and he credits a Dick Tracy comic, because we'll learn he is a voracious reader. A messenger van pulls up outside. Dr. Lapp asks after Mr. Heidegger, who appears to have made some inquiry into the Persian Gulf on Turner's behalf. Lapp is upset that this happened outside the proper channels, but Heidegger is out sick and can't defend his actions. Turner notices a pair of kids trying to steal his bike out front and scares them away before heading back inside. At the door, he checks his watch and privately celebrates correctly guessing when the rain would strike. The man in the car across the street still hasn't crossed off Heidegger's name, and we see him making a muted phone call to someone. Lapp delivers the response to Turner's inquiry, insisting his theory is groundless. Turner is reminded it's his turn to pick up lunch.
What time is it?
11:22.
Rain's going to stop by 11:30.
You can wait 8 minutes.
Before his time is up, Turner sneaks out the back through the rain to collect lunch.
So it was still raining.
While he's gone, we see Max von Sydow as a man we'll come to know as Joubert. He stands watch as another messenger rounds a corner toward the office building. The secretary unthinkingly buzzes the man in, and as soon as he's inside, he opens fire, knocking her back in her chair. Joubert and his team move all through the building, killing every agent they encounter, ending in Janice's office.
Would you move from the window, please?
Pardon?
Would you move from the window, please?
I won't scream.
I know.
When Turner gets back to the building, the rain has stopped, so he comes through the front and finds the door ajar and all his coworkers shot to pieces. He spends the longest time checking his apparent girlfriend, Janice, but eventually collects the gun from the secretary's desk and leaves back out the front door. Everything outside is suspicious now. He considered his electric bike chained up outside for a moment, but decides against it, as it might be booby-trapped, I guess.
Yeah, that's what I would think. But I like this whole setup in that because he went out the back door, there was no one. Everyone thought that everyone was in the house with the exception of Heidegger.
And the fact that he comes back in the front door because it's dry outside now, and then he realizes that the front is actually the safer way to leave because no one saw me come in through the front just now.
Right.
He crosses the street to escape the path of a woman with a stroller, which he presumes to be another assassin. He runs to the nearest payphone and calls a major at the CIA from an unsecure line. He stutters a bit on the way to introducing his codename, Condor.
Well, I don't...
What is your designation?
Condor. Section 9, Department 17. The section's been hit.
What level?
What level?
Level of damage.
Everybody. Dr. Lapp, Janice, Ray, Harold. Harold was in the,
Are you on a company line?
No, I'm in a phone booth. I'm just a block away. I'm in the street.
You're in violation of secure communication procedures, Condor.
Listen, you son of a bitch. I'm telling you, I came back with lunch and it was raining and the whole house was murdered. Everybody is dead.
He mentions that he collected the .45 from the secretary's desk. He's advised to leave the office to a safe place, anywhere but home, and to leave the phone hanging off the receiver and walk away. He runs full speed to the Guggenheim as a pair of cleaners enter the office of Section 17 and confirm Turner's testimony to Higgins, played by Cliff Robertson, at a CIA office in the World Trade Center. The cleaners confirm 6 dead, 1 missing. Turns out, unbeknownst to the filmmakers, the CIA actually did have a secret office in the World Trade Center, which was not publicly known until 2 months after it was destroyed in the September 11th attacks. As he eats a pretzel in Central Park, it occurs to Turner that Heidegger was out sick, so he heads to the man's apartment and finds the door ajar. Heidegger is dead inside, and Turner quickly leaves and hides a few floors up as a pair of agents come up the stairs to check on the man. We cut to Langley, where Wicks, the man in charge of Section 917, is informed of the hit. He's confused because those agents are just a research team. Nothing too hot. Wicks orders a helicopter to New York. Against the advice of his handlers, Turner heads back to his apartment and is, by chance, warned by his landlady that 2 friends are waiting for him in his apartment. You just let people in because they said they were my friends?
Yeah. But also, they told you not to go back home.
Yeah.
If by chance I thought Heidegger might have been alive and then I found him dead, I would immediately go, oh, well, they know where we all live.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so do not go home has already been told to him.
Yeah. Turner books it away from his house, and we see Wicks land his chopper in front of the World Trade Center. Turner calls into Higgins' office again just as Wicks walks in. They advise him to wait in an alley behind a nearby hotel. Turner's section leader, Wicks, will meet him there.
I've never met him.
Don't worry. Studying your photos now.
Turner? Turner!
I don't know you either.
We'll meet.
They convince him to follow their directions by promising a familiar face will be present. A friend named Sam Barber, and this seems to calm Turner down. We cut to an armory where Wicks and Sam Barber prepare for the meeting. Sam is putting on a flak jacket, and Wicks requests a .45 at the window in the gun cage.
Yeah.
Suspicious.
Yeah, I was like, as soon as he mentioned, like, what kind of gun do you have? It's like, oh,
Yeah.
no.
He wants to have the same gun that Redford has. While they wait for Turner in the alley, Wicks piles a pair of trash cans. Turner spots Sam and calls to him, and Sam is excited to find his friend when suddenly Wicks opens fire on him.
What are you doing? It's him! It's him! Yo!
Turner fires back, hitting Wicks, and then makes a run for it. Wicks falls to the ground and shoots Sam in the throat right above his bulletproof vest. Turner hides in a coat shop and overhears a woman placing an order long enough to catch her name when the salesman says it. He calls to her to get her attention when she steps outside, and he pushes a gun into her ribs, demanding a ride to her home. Higgins from the World Trade Center office joins an important meeting of higher-ups to discuss the day's events. Turner and Kathy arrive at her apartment building. A neighbor says hello, and she doesn't respond. Turner chastises her for her suspicious choice, and the neighbor was actually played by Sidney Pollack, who technically plays 3 characters in the film. He's also, I think when he was coming out of the building, he was the taxi driver that like honked at him when he wandered into the street.
Okay.
Back at the CIA meeting, Higgins is informed that Barber is now dead, shot in the neck right above his vest, and Wicks is in surgery. They seem impressed by the neck shot, since as far as they knew, Turner wasn't qualified with a handgun.
Evidently it was sheer luck.
The leader of this meeting is Mr. Wabash, played by John Houseman, who coordinates an immediate manhunt.
I mean, from their perspective, though, this doesn't really make a lot of sense.
Right.
I mean, not only does he not have the skill to make a shot like that, but they specifically picked his friend as a friend. Why would he shoot his friend? Why would he bother going to the meeting place at all if he was planning to shoot them?
It's weird that they didn't consider any other alternative to him having done this.
Yeah, their leap of logic was he doesn't have the skill to pull this off, which means he's been secretly trained.
Right.
It's like, that's a...
Well, let's see. Was there anyone else there who checked out the exact same gun?
And what would be his motivation?
Yeah. Especially if he's been working in this office for months and suddenly his whole team is killed and he called you guys to report it panicked.
And, and you're like, cool, we're sending help. Why would he shoot you?
Yeah. Why would he bother to even go to this meeting?
Yeah, he wouldn't even show up. It wouldn't make any sense. And I would never meet them in an alley.
Right.
I mean, you're at a hotel.
You meet in a public place. You meet in a restaurant or something. In Kathy's apartment, she reads Tentrex Industries off his business card. He advises her to look up CIA in the phone book and recognizes that it's the same phone number. He explains that he's a mere researcher in the office.
We read everything that's published in the world. And we feed the plots, dirty tricks, codes into a computer, and the computer checks against actual CIA plans and operations. I look for leaks, I look for new ideas. We read adventures and novels and journals. Who'd invent a job like that?
But isn't that a really bad cover?
Like, how hard is it to get a second phone number?
Yeah, it's like I'm gonna check out this guy's place of business to make sure it's legit. Hello, CIA. It's like, oh,
whoops. Is that how they answer the phone at the CIA? You think?
Well, if you have a CIA listed in the phone book, I imagine they must have some kind of call.
Yeah,
center.
you can't be like, hello, Tentrex Industries, because then people will look up that phone.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. If anybody calls the CIA number, you're gonna be answering the phone as if you're this fake place.
All you have to do is answer the phone and say, "Do you know your extension?" And if they don't, then you hang up on them.
Mm-hmm.
It's the CIA. They don't have to help you. They don't have to be user friendly.
What users?
Exactly. Why is there even a phone number?
There's kind of a bit like that in Sneakers with Robert Redford.
Yeah.
Where he keeps trying to get a hold of somebody, but they keep just asking him, what is your party's extension?
Yeah.
And he keeps trying different things, but they won't let him through.
Right. Yeah, I've been there before. Even with places I've worked in the past where I'm like just trying to call Pie Town to call out sick. It's like, I don't know my extension.
You worked for the CIA? Yeah, we called it Pie Town.
We called it Pie Town. PIE.
I worked for the PIE.
He asks to hang out in her apartment until he can make sense of everything that's happened. She mentioned before that someone else lives here with her and explains now that he left on a ski trip and she was supposed to join him today. He pushes her into a bed and lays down beside her, pressing her against a wall in a position where he can get a little rest, but he'd also feel it if she tried to escape. She pleads for a chance to sleep in a different room and claims to believe him.
I believe what you told me.
No, you don't. I don't know if I do.
Out on the street, we see a man hand an envelope, presumably payment, to Joubert, requesting that he track down Condor and take him out before their plans are too public. The only other loose end now is Wicks, and Joubert agrees to take that man out for free since he considers Condor's escape his own fault.
I really like Joubert.
Yeah.
Because he's like, yeah, I messed up, so you get a freebie.
I don't know why Wicks is the free one, though. It seems like Condor should be the free one since that was the screw-up.
No, I think... I thought he did mean Condor was the free one, but no, he's asking him to kill Wicks.
He says, yeah, I'll kill Wicks too, and I'm not going to charge you for it because Condor's my fault.
cost you nothing. I was careless with Condor. Wicks will be done for nothing.
Turner wakes with a startle and turns on the TV, intending to learn from the news. This was back when you could learn from the news. He looks around at Kathy's mounted photography and guesses from the seasons portrayed when they were taken. The news comes on and announces the local shootout that left one man dead and another injured. He tries to call Sam's place and a woman answers, but he doesn't say anything. Turner asks Kathy when her boyfriend will notice she's missing, and she assumes he'll call looking for her any minute now. After a bit of tense discussion, Turner concludes that he can't trust her and that she doesn't believe his story, so he ties her up before he leaves. He heads to Sam's place where Mrs. Sam is working steadily on dinner. Turns out Turner and Janice were supposed to meet Sam and his wife for dinner, but instead of telling her what happened, somebody called Sam's wife and said he's working late tonight. She assumes the same about Janice. He doesn't respond to any of her questions and then suddenly grabs her tight and asks why she's so sure Sam is working late.
Oh, what do you think he's doing?
What did he call?
I don't know, 2 or 2:30.
What did he say? Exactly.
Well, he didn't exactly. He had the center call.
Who at the center?
I didn't recognize his voice. It wasn't that lady that usually calls.
Nobody speaks to her through the phone, and he urges her out of the apartment immediately. He tells her to go to Bill and Eileen's place and to wait for his word to do anything else. Bill and Eileen is a reference to regular Redford collaborator William Goldman and his wife Eileen. He shoves her into the building elevator just as Joubert comes out, but then Joubert suspiciously waits immediately to take the elevator back down with Turner. They give each other glances behind a man and woman holding a cake in the elevator. When that couple steps out, they're replaced with 3 young adults, and then finally Turner and Joubert are alone together.
Yeah, the 3 young adults, I guess, were just going down one floor.
Yeah,
but
within the elevator, but not to the bottom.
But not to the bottom, but then he pushes all the buttons in the elevator.
He's hilarious.
Yeah.
Turner gives Joubert the right-of-way to step out first when they reach the ground floor, and before he goes outside, Turner enlists a group of teens by the door to help him break into his own car. He leaves the building in a crowd of kids, and suddenly we're watching him from the POV of Joubert's crosshairs, and the man is frustrated he can't get a clean shot off.
I like how he convinces the kids to go out there, though, because he's like, well, I think he said he needed help with his car.
Right.
Yeah,
and he like locked his keys in, and so he's like, I'll give you $5 to help me out. And they're all like, yeah, okay, sure, $5.
But then as soon as they get outside, he just breaks free from the group and runs off once he thinks he's in the clear. Without ever getting to a locked car, Turner runs from the kids to Kathy's car and skids away, but not before Joubert can get a look at the license plate. When he gets back to Kathy's place, the phone is ringing, and he orders her to answer the phone at gunpoint and give a believable excuse. Her boyfriend is disappointed to learn that the generator in her car is fucked, and he tells her to take the bus tomorrow, and she agrees to try.
Well, he's also kind of like I guess this is not the only time that she's canceled on him, and he's just like, oh, this is the same goddamn crap every time. It's like, oh, man, so you need to get rid of this guy.
Yeah. And the voice of the boyfriend here is actually the 3rd character played by Sidney Pollack in the film. After she hangs up, Turner promises to be out of her hair by tomorrow. She assures him again that if he hadn't tied her up, she still wouldn't have turned him in. He doesn't understand, and she compares him to the pictures that she can't share with people because of what they say about her deepest self.
I'd like to see those pictures.
We don't know each other that well.
Do you know anybody that well?
I don't think I want to know you very well. I don't think you're going to live much longer.
He asks to stay another night and unties her hands, and they're quickly kissing and laying down in bed together.
Well, and just before that, during their conversation, it's very oddly lit. So we're seeing like a 2-shot of them facing each other, but from camera's perspective, they're almost in silhouette.
Yeah.
But the room is still lit behind them.
They're just really dark.
Yeah, but there's this weird light that's reflecting off the bottom lip of Robert Redford's mouth, and it looks like he's got like a glowing marble in his mouth.
I didn't even notice
that. And it was so distracting. I was like, it's like you got a flashlight inside of your mouth, and I see it every time you open your mouth.
That's very weird.
Gotta go back and see that shot again.
The next morning, Turner is trying to recount the events of the previous day. Higgins called the man who shot Sam his section chief, but Turner never heard a name. He remembers multiple times that Langley shut down a theory he had proposed, and now he worries he was dangerously close to the truth. He digs the rejection telegram from Langley out of his pocket and finds the name of Section Chief Wicks. Kathy comes in to prepare some tea, and Turner tells her he has a plan today and might need her help. She says he was talking about Janice in his sleep.
Was she a volunteer or a draftee like me?
She was a friend. She's dead.
Do I have permission to take a shower?
You don't have to help, you know.
Oh, no. I'll help. Can always depend on the old spy fucker.
This is a weird joke for her to make right here. She backs off a bit when she can see the joke bothered him. We cut to a hospital where Wicks is flatlining, and a nurse phones it into the authorities.
Or kind of just phones it in. She really just kind of walks out of the room, and she's like, "Oh, that."
Oh, that's the guy.
Yeah,
that's the
and she
important
just
one.
waddles out slowly.
Yeah,
I'm like, "Come on, lady, this is urgent."
Yeah,
this is a code blue.
A postman knocks on Kathy's door looking for a signature, and Turner notices the man's odd choice of footwear just before the guy would have gunned him down. It seems insane that he'd be in such an accurate postal uniform and that they'd fuck up the detail of the shoes so obviously. Turner throws the boiling water on the counter at the man, and they fight back and forth over his gun. Kathy returns in a bathrobe to find the men fighting and even tries to intervene on Turner's behalf when the man opens fire at Turner, missing by a lot, and Turner cuts the man down with a handgun. He still isn't trained to use this well. It's like, we've established that you're not supposed to be good with this gun, but you're hitting everyone you shoot at.
Yeah. Well, he reads a lot.
Oh, yeah. I read Dick Tracy. I know how to shoot people. Kathy's in shock to see a man killed in her apartment, but Turner assures her that she is okay. He checks the man's corpse, and the man is riddled with clues like some kind of fucking amateur. First, he finds a key and then a memo from 5 Continents Imports Incorporated with some phone numbers. He dials the number with a DC area code and reaches Langley. He asks to speak with Wicks, and when they say he's out, Turner hangs up. Later, we see him driving with Kathy and explaining that Wicks is his section chief and the man who tried to kill him. Turner drops Kathy off outside the World Trade Center, and she heads inside, posing as an applicant to the CIA. You just walk
Like
right in
you
with
do.
your resume. My dad just dropped me off. I want to work for the CIA.
Because they just take interviews any time of the day.
Yeah.
They don't have like a scheduling or.
Right.
I mean, I guess if you were just trying to apply for maybe just a clerical or mailroom or type
Still,
of
these
position.
people need to be vetted very thoroughly.
Yeah, exactly.
Just walk up to the counter. Can I have an application?
Kathy is directed to the office of Clarence Addison, but instead pops into Higgins' office. In the lobby, she gives Turner a nod to indicate that Higgins is in fact here. Later, Higgins is on a lunch break at McCoy's restaurant and bar, and Kathy sits across from him with a message from Turner.
Dear Mr. Higgins, this will introduce a friend of mine, Sparrow Hawk. Please accompany her to the Nassau Street exit of this place. Now.
She says Turner's watching them with a gun, and she leads Higgins outside. They throw Higgins into a truck and check him for weapons, but he's unarmed. He presents Higgins with the memo and describes the mailman and the elevator assassin Joubert, but Higgins is truthfully clueless. As he describes Joubert, we see Max von Sydow painting pewter soldiers. A phone rings, and he turns to answer it. The man who paid him the night before is checking on the status of the hits. He says he hasn't heard back from the Condor killer, but that he was busy with the bigger contract, i.e. Wicks.
But I might have underestimated this one.
I was told you never make that kind of mistake. What will you do?
Wait.
From Turner's description, Higgins gathers that he means Joubert, who he has employed from time to time as a professional hitman. Higgins can't say for certain who hired him, but it would have to be an agent of the intelligence community.
Community.
Intelligence field.
Community. Jesus, you guys are kind to yourselves. Community.
He explains to Higgins exactly what he believes he uncovered, a hidden intelligence organization within the CIA, and people seem willing to kill to keep it hidden. Higgins fears Turner is digging into something more dangerous than he could possibly know.
Ask Wicks.
Wicks died. Someone yanked him off the life support system at Gouverneur Hospital.
Turner begs Higgins to bring him into the agency, and Higgins points out that he's no safer there now, if what he says is true. Turner and Kathy leave Higgins alone in a park. Turner steals a briefcase out of the back of a phone company van and takes the key he found to a locksmith. The locksmith is hesitant to admit that the number on the key indicates where it can be used, and Turner bribes the man for the information.
Yeah, the utility truck briefcase, at first I thought it was some kind of drop.
Yeah.
I was like...
But it turns out he just knows what he's doing here.
Yeah, but also, it's so strange, because this is like a really standard piece of like utility equipment, that they would keep it in like a valise inside the back of a utility truck.
At the Holiday Inn where Joubert is staying, Turner hacks into the phone system with the stolen equipment and calls room 819 to reach him.
I'm doing a survey. Do you believe the Condor is really an endangered species?
He hangs up and connects the phone to a tape recorder to tap the line. Joubert calls the man who paid him to report what he just heard. Turner uses the recording of the touch-tone dialing to find out who Joubert called. Then he calls another number and gives them the number that Joubert dialed and orders a CNA to request a customer name and address.
I was really disappointed that he, as learned as he was, he
couldn't recognize the numbers.
Yeah, I was like that he had to like send it to a computer to tell him.
But he did have a device in place. He called the CIA and like played the recording to it, and then it told him what the number was. But you would think he'd be able to hear it if he's a professional phone freak.
One moment, please. That would be Mr. Leonard Atwood, 365 Mackenzie Place, Chevy Chase, Maryland.
This was the point. That I learned that Chevy Chase was a place.
Yeah.
And that they have nothing to do with each other.
Yeah. That's where he's buried.
What?
Huh? We're just waiting for him to die now.
Won't be long now.
I think it's a place in the UK also.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, I also learned that his name is not actually Chevy.
Right. It's Ford Chase.
Subaru Chase.
It's like Cornelius or something like that, isn't it?
Cornelius? Maybe. That sounds right. Higgins is back at headquarters and locates the identity of the postman assassin, William Lloyd. He cross-checks Lloyd and Wicks for common cases and finds the supposed termination of freelance agent Joubert. So these three men worked together. The two assassins pretended to kill the third assassin, but they didn't actually kill him. Turner brings his stolen briefcase to a huge phone bank and then calls the major to speak with Higgins. He tells Higgins exactly where to find Joubert. He also asks who Leonard Atwood is, and Higgins goes silent while he processes the question, because he's sitting beside him.
Yeah, I was just like, he's in the room with me.
Yeah.
And I was like, but I'm surprised that he wasn't on speakerphone.
Yeah, that would have been a problem.
Yeah.
Atwood is sitting directly beside him, and Higgins puts together that Turner has determined Atwood is the mole who put a price on Turner's head. The major claims to have traced the call, but suddenly the line is bouncing all over the city, and they realize that he nested like 20 phones together to reach them.
Another fascinating machine in this movie that I don't actually understand.
I'm sure this is not real.
Okay. I don't know. I don't know. It's technology well before me, but it's just like it's a physical map that's bouncing around based on however it's triangulated where these calls are coming from. I'm like, how is it doing this?
Yeah, it seems like that can't possibly be how it works.
But it was fascinating to watch. It's it's probably, it looks like it's
like a microfiche.
Yeah, like it's like very zoomed in on a map.
Yeah.
And just moving around really quickly.
Outside the phone bank, Turner says his official goodbye to Kathy and urges her not to tell anyone about their adventure to avoid landing herself in danger. He boards a train. Back at headquarters, Houseman's Wabash character is questioning Higgins on his whole military background and shares a bit of his own.
You served with Colonel Donovan in the OSS, didn't you, sir?
I sailed the Adriatic with a movie star at the helm. Doesn't seem like much of a war now, but it was. I go even further back than that. 10 years after the Great War, as we used to call it. Before we knew enough to number them.
You miss that kind of action, sir?
No. I miss that kind of clarity.
Colonel Donovan is a reference to decorated officer William J. Donovan, who headed the OSS before it split into the Bureau of Intelligence and Research and the CIA. He's the only person to be awarded a Medal of Honor, a Distinguished Service Cross, a Distinguished Service Medal, and the National Security Medal, as well as a Purple Heart and many other commendations. He was portrayed by George Brent in the James Cagney film The Fightin' 69th, which also starred Jeffrey Lynn as Sergeant Joyce Kilmer. Do you guys recall the last time Joyce Kilmer came up on the podcast?
No, not at all.
Give you a clue. She's a he.
Dress to Kill?
Nope.
I remember this line, right? It's someone says that she's a he.
Oh, it's the poem. What was that movie? Driving. We're driving across the country, and it's Cannonball Run.
Yep.
Yeah, I got
Cannonball
there.
Run, Joyce Kilmer.
Have you ever heard of Joyce Kilmer?
Yeah.
She wrote a really terrific poem about a tree.
She's a he.
And the same day, Joyce Kilmer is referenced in what other movie? The same release date. They referenced the same poem by the same poet.
It was a woman talking about it, and she's kind of artsy or something. I don't remember.
Superman 2.
Superman 2. Okay.
They're filing through the knowledge base on Earth, and a man appears on a hologram and says, "Trees" by Joyce Kilmer.
Okay. No, that was not what was happening in my brain. I was misremembering.
Earth Culture, Section B. Trees by Joyce Kilmer of the planet Earth.
You were thinking of the Cannonball Run when she's talking about Joyce Kilmer.
Oh, okay. For some reason, when I rememberred that scene, it was him talking about
No.
it. And no,
She's the one who's obsessed
talking
with
about it in
trees.
Cannonball Run.
Yeah.
And the other one, it's a hologram of what's its face.
Right. I assumed when he said a movie star at the helm that he was referring to the fact that Donovan has been featured in movies played by other actors, but I've also found it suggested that when he mentions a movie star that he's possibly referring to Sterling Hayden, who also served as a captain in the Adriatic for the OSS in World War II. Wabash gets a call that someone's being detained at New York Center, and we cut presumably to 365 Mackenzie Place, Chevy Chase, Maryland. Turner sits behind a desk in a dark office with music playing loudly and waits for Atwood to appear. Turner asks the man who he is. Atwood is the Deputy Director of Operations in the Middle East, and eventually Turner deduces that this has all been about oil, which should have been one of your first guesses to the question, why war? All the countries the books were printed in are OPEC nations. There is coded language being delivered through these books. Suddenly, Joubert is in the doorway behind Turner, and I'm confused, because I don't know who Wabash has in custody if it's not Joubert. I expected Atwood to breathe a sigh of relief when Joubert showed up, since he paid this guy to kill Turner, and now he seems to be here to do it. Instead, Joubert shoots Atwood in the head, seemingly framing it as a suicide, and cleaning up any prints Turner might have left behind.
What? Did you touch anything except the chair?
You're working for the company again.
The desk? The lamp?
Jesus, they took you back.
Just for this. For Atwood.
Turner is flabbergasted and assumes he is the last target, but Joubert was given no such contract.
Oh, no, I have no arrangement with the company concerning you. They didn't know you'd be here. I knew you'd be here.
But doesn't he still have an outstanding debt to the guy he just shot to kill this guy?
You can't owe money to a dead guy.
I guess. So
he already got paid.
So I was gonna say, yeah, he must already have his money for that one.
Yeah.
And so he's like, well, I got out of having to do that job.
Maybe that's why they had the Condor one be the free one.
Yeah.
Because he's like, I don't even owe this guy money for it. I told him I'd do it for free.
It's a benefit to him if he's got one less job to do if he kills this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Joubert has nothing against Turner. It's all 100% business. He warns Turner about how he will meet his end if he doesn't get out now.
It would happen this way. You may be walking. Maybe the first sunny day of the spring. And a car will slow beside you. And a door will open. And someone you know, maybe even trust, will get out of the car. And he will smile. A becoming smile. But he will leave open the door of the car and offer to give you a lift.
You seem to understand it all so well. What would you suggest?
Personally, I prefer Europe.
The scene is famously parodied in Seinfeld episode The Junk Mail.
Yeah.
Here's how it's going to happen. Maybe walking. Maybe on a crisp autumn day just like today, when a mail truck will slow beside you and the door will open, and a mailman you know, maybe even trust, will offer to give you a lift.
Wherein Kramer tries to cancel all his mail and is brought face to face with Henry Atkins, the Postmaster General played by Wilford Brimley, who tells him the fate he will suffer if he doesn't keep receiving mail. They care a lot, apparently. Joubert offers him a ride to Union Station, but apparently this isn't the last ride that Joubert was referring to.
Yeah. Joubert even gives him back his gun. He says,
right.
And he says, for that day.
Yeah.
I like that line.
Turner finds Higgins in New York and takes him on a walk at gunpoint again.
Do we have plans to invade the Middle East? Are you crazy? Am I? Look, Turner. Do we have plans? No. Absolutely not. We have games. That's all.
Higgins assures him that all their missions are theoretical, until, of course, they aren't theoretical. Turner thinks Atwood's group planned on simply executing the plan, and it would have worked, too.
I don't actually understand what the plan was. What was he planning?
Invading the Middle East for their oil.
But I don't understand how a rogue CIA agent could honestly be doing that.
It's not just one guy. He's communicating with all the other OPEC nations via these book publishing maneuvers.
Or other cells that are in operation within these countries.
It just still seems like
it's literally a plan that the CIA put together in case the government ever asked for it, but he was just acting on the plan behind the scenes.
Yeah, but I imagine in case in the event that the government wanted to do this, it would also have entire U.S. Army involved in the execution of this plan.
It might not be necessary. And I also feel like it's kind of like Dr. Strangelove in that if you force the government's hand, then they suddenly, if they're halfway into the operation, then it's better for them to just go along with it.
Right, we can't not
than it is to back out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. But to what end? To what? How does that benefit Atwood?
Step 3, profit.
What I don't understand about Atwood's plan, most of all, is why you would publish these things in books that you know are being read by CIA operatives looking for codes.
Well, I guess he didn't realize that they read everything or that anyone would ever notice, oh, that's weird that these are getting published for these random countries that it doesn't seem like there's a demand for this
Does that
book.
mean Turner can read all those languages?
I think so. I think he's just a super genius.
To me, it should have been more the plot of that they wanted to see if this coding system could be broken or be found out, like Mercury Rising kind of thing.
Sure.
Like we'll run a test to see if our top analyst can spot it, and if he does,
we'll kill him.
We'll kill him.
We'll find a new plan. Yeah.
Boy, what is it with you people? You think not getting caught in a lie is the same thing as telling the truth?
The same line is spoken in The Interpreter.
You're lying to me again. You think that not getting caught in a lie is the same thing as telling the truth?
I'm not.
Higgins spells it out that the world is made up of limited resources, and it's best to control them now than to try and take them later when everyone is starving and desperate for them. Turner is tired of the government speak and admits that everything he's been through has just been handed off to the New York Times as an article.
You poor dumb son of a bitch. You've done more damage than you know.
I hope so.
Higgins hits him with one last sobering thought.
How do you know they'll print it? You can take a walk, but how far if they don't print it?
They'll print it.
How do you know?
Turner seems shaken by the suggestion, and we freeze frame on him walking away to roll credits.
I feel like we needed him to have also not just told these guys, but have some sort of dead man switch to release 12 more copies to the major newspapers across the nation.
But what evidence does he have?
Just a pile of books.
Yeah, he just has his story, and then potentially the book, and him having to explain that there's a code hidden within this book that explains.
But I don't know the code. I don't know what the message is that's being delivered. I could just tell you there's a code in this book.
Mm-hmm. What I thought for sure when he tells Higgins to wave the car that was waiting for them, on, I thought for sure as the car went by, you were going to see Kathy in the car.
Yeah.
Like that was going to be the friendly
Right.
face to lure him into the car.
Yeah. I feel like that's definitely should have been the closing image of this. Like, instead of this freeze frame even, that he turns around and walks away and you see her in a car pushing the door open. Because then it's like, oh shit, like somehow they led him to her. And she's been in on this from the beginning.
Or at least...
Or they turned her
Yeah.
against him, you know, however they could.
By explaining
and
that
then,
he's actually psychotic.
So now he can't trust literally anyone in his
Right.
life. Yeah.
Except for Mrs. Sam.
Yeah.
And Bill and Eileen.
Bill and Eileen.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
Oddly enough, his only person that he can trust is Joubert.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Because
you at least know where he stands because it's whoever paid him last.
Yeah.
Well,
You just be like, keep some money on you, and then Joubert will leave you alone.
Well, Joubert even kind of offers him a job or a potential like
out.
Like if you want to do this, it's very
Yeah.
You're not
a lot of travel.
Yeah, you're not. Well, he says you don't have to worry about a side. Doesn't matter to you.
Yeah. Changes from the book. The book takes place mostly in Washington, D.C. instead of New York. And instead of being about oil in the Middle East, it centers on the importation of illegal drugs from Laos. But the way the movie is written compared to the book, it seems a lot more prophetic because it's before we had invaded the Middle East for their oil. And it's before this World Trade Center CIA office was ever unveiled. So it seems like there might have even been someone who knew about these things and communicated it to the author before they showed up in the script, because it's like, how could they have just guessed all this stuff and had it be right? But it was right.
I don't know. The government's just predictable.
Yeah, maybe that's the bigger problem.
Predictably awful.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I guess this is
formula,
before the formula,
right?
So very similar kind of stuff going on there.
Yeah. I think this is definitely a big thumbs up for me.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I give it a thumbs up. I struggled to follow all the things because I felt like I was supposed to know more than I think I did, because a lot of it kind of unravels right at the end.
Sure, yeah.
So the whole way through, I'm like, what am I missing? I don't understand what's happening.
Yeah.
I didn't. The only thing I guess that I felt was really kind of shoehorned in was the sex scene and the weird attempt at giving them, like, I guess she has Stockholm syndrome, maybe.
But that's all these stories go, is the spy ropes in an innocent woman and then they end up falling in love. That's like such a trope of these stories.
I guess, but it just seemed weird, especially because there's no payoff in that because she goes back to her life.
Yeah. I mean, the only reason that it makes sense is because it's Robert Redford. Like, Faye Dunaway even made the point that it's like, the hardest part of this job was pretending like she was worried about getting raped by Robert Redford. Like, she was like, oh no, darn it. But yeah, I think it's not necessary to the story, really.
Yeah.
It's just something that you had to put in these movies to get people to come out and see them. There needed to be a romantic angle so that it can be a date movie on top of being a political thriller. But yeah, I think the story unravels very neatly. I think it's smart. It's smartly written. And Max von Sydow is always great in these roles where he's just like a creeper who's thinking 10 steps ahead of everyone. And I like that he's like, what is it? I guess he's neutral. I mean, is he lawful evil?
Yeah, I would say lawful evil in that, although the neutral though, I guess it's neutral evil. Is that an option? Yeah, because he doesn't really care. But he has his own rules that he follows.
Yeah,
and
but he's not invested in it, and it's like no hard feelings. It's just kind of like, I'm just a pawn in this situation.
Yeah, like he's like, I'm not here to kill you today, but
right, yeah.
But who knows about tomorrow, kind of thing,
If you can convince people that you aren't alive for me to kill, then we'll never have a problem, because I have no reason to kill you.
Gives him a ride.
Yeah.
it's like, oh, I kind of like him now, even though he killed your girlfriend and all your other friends. But, But he didn't do it specifically to get you. He just did it because he was hired to do it.
Yeah, he was contracted to do it by a representative of the CIA, or so he thought at the time. And he was careful about like not hurting anyone more than he needed to by telling
Mhm.
her to stay away from the window when he shot her.
Well, also that they would.
Well, I think
Give
it
them
gave
away.
them
People
away.
away, yeah.
I think that they were not on the ground floor at that point, and it was more about not letting people know that there's bullets flying through this
But they
office.
fired a lot of bullets on the
Yeah.
ground floor that were pretty loud.
Well, yeah, I guess
They had
like
silencers.
yeah,
on there.
that was the thing that bothered me too is when Robert Redford unloads his gun at the mailman in her apartment building.
Nothing comes of it.
Yeah, like she's getting changed while he's searching the body. It's like someone has to have called the police about
And
this.
did they just leave that body in her apartment?
Yeah,
I
probably.
assume.
Like, she's going to have to call someone to come get it eventually. She's not just going to, like, miss 45 this thing into sausage, feed it to a dog.
I really wanted when he was asking the guys, like, well, what about the mailman? I wanted him to be like, what mailman? Like, I didn't send a mailman after you. Like, it was just it was just
Like, no, that guy just went postal.
like, it was literally just a regular mailman who happened to be carrying a gun.
Yeah.
It's like, first I put on the wrong shoes this morning. I'm so angry.
If one more person says anything about my shoes, I swear to God.
Yeah. Infuriating.
But Higgins does say, "Is like we don't hire mailmen." It's like I don't think you understand. I mean, he was dressed as
Yeah.
but he seemed like totally like disturbed or insulted. Is like the very idea.
How dare you? That's someone else's department. We're the CIA.
Gotta work your way up from mail.
Yeah. But we all have the same retirement plan. Dying in a hailstorm of bullets.
Yeah.
Our director here was Sidney Pollack. He previously directed They Shoot Horses, Don't They? Jeremiah Johnson, The Yakuza. We'll see his work later this season on Absence of Malice and next season on Tootsie. Later still in Out of Africa, The Firm, and the 90s Sabrina remake. He also does a fair amount of acting, most notably in his own film Tootsie and later in Husbands and Wives, Eyes Wide Shut, and Michael Clayton. The novel here was from James Grady, based on his novel 6 Days of the Condor. He also has a credit on the 1986 and 2018 television adaptations of the same novel entitled Condor. He also directed the 2006 documentary Jesus Camp, which is actually a really good documentary. I had no idea he was involved with it, but it's good. He co-directed it with his stepdaughter, actually. The writer here is Lorenzo Semple Jr. He's an action TV writer for series like Batman, Rat Patrol, and The Green Hornet. Later, he has screenplay credits on Papillon, The Parallax View, The Drowning Pool, and just after this, the 76 King Kong. We've heard his words previously in our Flash Gordon review, and he'll be back in our 4th season writing Never Say Never Again. Writer David Rayfiel. He's an uncredited writer of Jeremiah Johnson and the Electric Horseman. He also has uncredited work on Absence of Malice this season and later on Out of Africa, but he actually gets credits on later Pollack titles Firm, Intersection, and Sabrina. The music here is from Dave Grusin, who provided additional music for The Graduate. He composed the scores for The Yakuza, Murder by Death, The Electric Horseman. We've heard his work so far in My Bodyguard, and he's back later this season scoring Absence of Malice and On Golden Pond, and next season with Author, and Tootsie. And we also just recently had a music credit for him in The Long Goodbye, right?
Yeah.
And you pointed out that he also scored The Goonies.
The Goonies, yeah.
At the same time. Cinematographer here was Owen Roisman, who I think actually just passed away. He was the DP on The French Connection, The Exorcist, Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3, and The Stepford Wives before this. He's back for The Return of a Man Called Horse, Network, and The Electric Horseman. We've seen his work so far in The Black Marble and True Confessions, and later this season he lights Absence of Malice and Taps, and later Addams Family and French Kiss, and yeah, he just passed away in January.
Yeah.
The editor here was Don Guidici, who also cut The Yakuza. Robert Redford plays Turner. Before this, he was Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, The Hot Rock, Jeremiah Johnson, The Sting, The Great Gatsby, and next he did All the President's Men. We've seen him so far in Brubaker and Behind the Camera for 1980 Best Picture Ordinary People. Later, he's in The Natural, Out of Africa, The Horse Whisperer, and more recently, he's shown up in the MCU as Alexander Pierce as a result of this film. Faye Dunaway played Kathy. Before this, she was the titular Bonnie of Bonnie and Clyde. She's Mrs. Pendrake in Little Big Man and Evelyn Mulray in Chinatown. We've seen her so far in The First Deadly Sin and Mommy Dearest, and later she shows up in Supergirl, Barfly, and the remake of the Thomas Crown Affair. Cliff Robertson played Higgins. He was Mike Hagan in The Pilot, which gets a minisode eventually. Later, he's Hugh Hefner in Star 80 and the President in Escape from L.A., but he's probably best known for his part in Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy as Uncle Ben Parker. I also was just reading about a movie called Charlie. Have you ever heard of Charlie?
Like the Flowers for Algernon adaptation?
I don't know. Charlie is about Cliff Robertson is the lead character, and he is a man who is mentally handicapped, and he's given some kind of a treatment that causes him to be smarter and smarter. But evidently, he won Best Actor. He got an Oscar for Best Actor for this part.
Yeah, so it was adapted from Flowers for Algernon.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't know that. Interesting. Max von Sydow played Joubert. He began his career working with Swedish director Ingmar Bergman in films like The Seventh Seal, Wild Strawberries, and The Virgin Spring. His American career began largely as Father Merrin in The Exorcist, and then here as Joubert in 3 Days of the Condor. After this, he's King Osric in Conan the Barbarian, Brewmaster Smith in Strange Brew, Blofeld in Never Say Never Again, an uncredited role in The Ice Pirates, Dr. Kynes in Lynch's Dune, the voice of Vigo the Carpathian in Ghostbusters 2. He's Judge Fargo in Judge Dredd, Papanow in The Diving Bell and the Butterfly, Lor Sen Taka in The Force Awakens, and his last big thing was his appearance as the Three-Eyed Raven on Game of Thrones. We've seen him so far in Flash Gordon and Victory. He passed away in March of 2020. John Houseman played Mr. Wabash. He has one title in the 30s and another in the 60s before his best-known work in The Paper Chase. We've seen him so far in The Fog, Holy Moses, and My Bodyguard, and he's back later this season for Ghost Story and later Scrooged and The Naked Gun. Addison Powell played Atwood. He showed up in 37 episodes of Dark Shadows. He's also Abe in the original Thomas Crown Affair. Walter McGinn played Barber, Sam Barber. He was Jack Younger in The Parallax View. Michael Kane, not that Michael Kane, played Wicks, but not Kane, the writer of Smokey and the Bandit Part 2, Southern Comfort, or Jaws 3D. Or Michael Caine from Jaws 4. Those are two different Michael Caines. Robert Phelan.
Just to be clear, there's three Michael Caines.
There's three.
Yeah.
There's two of them that spell it with a K and one that spells it with a C-A-I-N.
Okay.
E. You thought I was going to miss it, but I didn't.
You only needed a C. You only had to say C.
C? Robert Phelan played Newberry. Who's Newberry? I don't know. He's Dr. Wynn in Halloween and Major Bell in Babylon 5. Lee Steele played Heidegger. He was Doctor in The Nesting, presumably the one tricked into falling off of the roof of the Octagon House.
I like that the corpse gets a credit.
Yeah. He just laid on a bed and bled. That's all he did. Ed Crowley played Ordnance Man. That's the guy who hands him the 45, I guess. He was a sheriff in Witness. He's Bardo in Serpico and Joe Donnelly in Network. We saw him last as Caretaker in The Fan. James Keane played Store Clerk. He was Duck Hunter Bubba in The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimension. He's Detective Keene in Falling Down and Pat Patton in Dick Tracy. He's also Pinky in Brubaker last season with Redford again. Ed Satrakian played Customer. He's Al Hyman in Zodiac. Russell Johnson played an intelligence officer at a briefing. I didn't even see him in there.
I did not see him either.
He's uncredited, but apparently he's in there. And he plays the professor from Gilligan's Island, but he's probably best known for his appearance as Oslo in MacGyver episode Ugly Duckling. Those are all the credits I have for this one. I think that's it for 3 Days of the Condor. Thanks again to Justin Aylett for their generous contribution to the show. If you have any thoughts you'd like to share, we are Vintage Video Pod on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Letterboxd. Or as I've said before, you can find each of our full movie rankings for the year. We can also be found at vintagevideopodcast.com. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you'll join us next time when we'll be discussing whatever the next custom requested episode was. I can't say until they're officially announced. And we'll leave you now with the trailer for 3 Days of the Condor.
This is the Major.
This is Joe Turner.
Identification?
My name is Turner. I work for you. Now listen.
Identify yourself.
What is your designation?
Condor.
Something has happened.
Section 9, Department 17. The section's been hit.
What level?
What level?
Level of damage.
Everybody. Dr. Lapp, Janice, Ray, Harold. Everybody is dead.
What is it? What is it?
Are you damaged?
Damaged? No.
Are you armed? Identify the armament.
It's a .45 automatic. Will you guys bring me in, please? I'm not a field agent. I just read books.
This is the panic office. Section 917 may have been hit.
Hit confirmed.
It was a quality work.
Clean, fast, first rate.
Except they overlooked one item.
You say one of my people is still okay?
Condor, you know him?
No.
This is Condor. Who is this?
Deputy Director Higgins, New York Center. I'm controlling now, Condor. Where are you?
How come I need a code name and you don't?
The head of your department just came here from D.C. He's going to bring you home.
I've never met him.
Don't worry. 2 years military service. Separated 961. Worked at Bell Labs, Communication Research College on the GI Bill.
This Condor isn't the man his file says he is.
But wait a minute, I don't...
Get in the car. Don't make a sound. Don't be dumb. Come on, hurry up. Get in. I work for the CIA. I am not a spy.
Your assignment for today was to go out and kidnap a girl.
I'll need your help.
Have I ever denied you anything? I don't think you're gonna live much longer.
Well, I may surprise you.
We have games. What if? How many men? What would it take?
7 people killed. And you play games.
And the other side does too.
Condor is an amateur. He's lost. Unpredictable. He could fool a professional.
Yes?
Do you believe the Condor is really an endangered species?
Conclude the Condor episode without any more noise.
We're already visible. Let's not become conspicuous.
If company agents aren't enough, use freelance. Use whatever it requires, but end it.
Robert Redford and Faye Dunaway in danger and in love in 3 days of the Condor.